Giving all glory and honor and praise to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Rakah Kadash. Double honor to the elder apostles of Great Millstone who rule well in teaching this 100% truth. Shalom and salutations to the hopeful elect, beginning with the 144,000 and the rest of the men, women, and children. I'm your brother Magun Shalamar, and the title of this video is, If a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. So we're going to go right into it. This is proven Revelation 13 that America is the reincarnated of ancient Roman Empire. We're going to get right into this video. Fair use, fair use. This is for education purposes only, not for monetary gain. Fair use.
Longest shutdown in U.S. history. And we wanted to just have a simple exercise with you this morning to go through just a couple of important facts. There is such a staggering amount of gaslighting and false information that Democrats are engaging in right now. And so we thought it would be useful to just this morning in a very brief and concise manner separate fact from fiction. So I'm just going to go through 4 false claims that you have heard over and over and over and just explain once more what the simple truth is. Meredith, let me see the first slide here. Here's the first one. The obviously false claim of the Democrats is that Republicans have closed the government. I've heard them say this myself. You've all seen it in interviews. They're blaming the shutdown on the Republicans, and it is patently absurd. The next slide will show you the simple fact, the obvious fact that everyone can see. It is Republicans who have voted to open the government 14 times. Now remember how this came about. Back in September 19th in the House, Republicans in the House voted to open the government, the clean continuing resolution to keep everything in operation. Every Democrat except one in the House voted to close the government, but we still passed it because we have the majority. And so we sent that bill over to the Senate, and 13 different occasions, 13 times, the Democrats have voted to close the government. Republicans voted yes every time to open it. Republicans in the Senate and the House voted to keep the lights on, to pay service members and our troops who are in harm's way, Border Patrol agents, TSA, air traffic controllers, all federal workers. They voted to ensure that women, infants, and children nutrition programs continue and that SNAP benefits continue to go to the American families who are in need. But by contrast, the Democrats have voted no every single time. And what is outrageous to us is that they have gone onto the Senate floor. Senate Democrats, they have voted no. They have voted to close the government. And then they have gone out to the hall, to the nearest camera they can find. And they have looked into the lens and said, Republicans are shutting down the government. It makes no sense. It's the most extreme example of gaslighting in the history of American politics. And many in the media have allowed them to get away with that. It's shameful. Let me show you another obviously false claim. Obviously false claim number 2 of the Democrats is that Republicans are being unreasonable. Well, here's the fact. Let me see the next one. The fact is very simple. Republicans are refusing to accept the Democrats' outrageous demands. Now, why do we say that? Now, remember, the Republicans passed a clean continuing resolution. It was nonpartisan. It was a simple bill that would open the full government. And we could do that today. If they would pass that today, with 0 strings attached, everything would be flowing again and the government would work. Importantly, remember that we offered that CR in good faith. Why do we say that? Because it was offered after a bipartisan, bicameral negotiation between both chambers. Because you see, you had the appropriators, Republican and Democrat appropriators, who got together and decided they agreed on the need for a short-term CR so that they could continue their negotiations on the full year funding bills. But this is something Democrats have spoken passionately about and acted upon many times in the past. We've recounted here every day. 13 different occasions in the Biden administration, they passed continuing resolutions. They did it most recently in March of this year when Chuck Schumer, 10 Senate Democrats, including the leader, Schumer, voted for the CR and told us how important that was. The CR that's on the table right now and has been sitting there for 45 days is nearly identical to the one that they voted on in March. But shockingly, this is the big thing.
I look forward to you joining us at our next investor webinar.
In March. But shockingly, this is the big thing. In addition to their refusal to support the CR and reopen the government, the Democrats have had the audacity to also demand something new. They demanded $1.5 trillion with a T in new spending obligations in exchange for the simple funding resolution. They filed on paper in the Senate record back in September, and it still sits there as their counterproposal. They would spend $1.5 trillion of your taxpayer funds. Included in that is nearly $200 billion of taxpayer funds that they want to use to restore free health benefits to illegal aliens. They want to spend billions in wasteful left-wing spending projects in foreign countries on things like LGBTQ plus awareness in the Horn of Africa, all sorts of things. I could give you a long list, and we've said it here before. They want to spend $500 million to prop up left-leaning news organizations. And shockingly, in that same proposal, as their ransom for reopening the government, they want to cut $50 billion from the rural hospital fund that the Republicans just got signed into law on July 4th. That is the bill that they filed that shut down the government. And every American can see that for themselves. So their claim about Republicans being responsible is laughable. Let me go to the third one. False claim number 3, Democrats are fighting for health care. You've heard this over and over and over. Let me say something very simply about this false claim. It is the Democrats who created Obamacare. It is the Democrats who did that without any Republican votes. It's the Democrats who, by extension, have cost the American taxpayers and people who have health insurance have made their costs skyrocket. It is their policies that made that happen. And so instead of reforming it, the Democrats don't reform Obamacare. They want to subsidize it. They want to spend more taxpayer dollars. That, by the way, goes mostly to insurance companies, which makes the cost rise further. That's the Democrats' plan. When they passed Obamacare in 2010, they called it the Affordable Care Act. We know the truth is exactly the opposite. By some estimates, premiums have risen 60% in many categories since they passed that bill into law. Now, the fact is the opposite. Republicans are the ones fighting to save health care. Why? It's not just talking points to us. We do this. We have ideas, and we have already implemented ideas and measures to reduce costs, increase access and quality, and eliminate fraud, waste, and abuse. Now, why do we say it's not just a talking point? Why do we say the Republican Party is the only one advancing common sense reform solutions? Because we've proven it. We did that in the big, beautiful bill, the Working Families Tax Cut. We took a look at Medicaid, and we took on that challenge. We took action to reduce fraud, waste, and abuse in Medicaid. We got able-bodied young men without dependents off the program. We got illegal aliens off the program, and we saved $185 billion just to start. We got millions of ineligible enrollees off the program, and it preserved it. It strengthened Medicaid for the people who rely upon it, which is the elderly, disabled, and young pregnant women, as we always use as an example. No, it's not about health care. That is a false claim, and everybody knows it. Everyone in America, and certainly everybody in this room, understands that this is about something else. What this is about fear. The Schumer shutdown was never about health care. That's a distraction. It's a red herring, as we say in Debate Club. Okay, this is about fear. And what is the fear? The resolution on the COVID-era Obamacare subsidy issue was always going to be slated for debate in October, November, and December. Everybody knows that, and every Democrat knows that. It's an issue that's too complex to be solved on a short-term funding measure like a CR. They know that very well. This is about fear. Everybody in the country is watching the elections that will happen tomorrow. You got big elections in New Jersey and Virginia, the governor's races and attorney general's races, etc. But all the attention is focused primarily on New York City. Why? Because the fear that Mamdani and all that he represents will be risen to power, that he'll be elected the mayor of America's largest city, the once cradle of capitalism, that we're going to have a Marxist, a communist running the largest city. Now this terrifies the establishment old guard Democrats in Washington. And the leaders of both chambers are among those most terrified. They're both from New York. Leader Hakeem Jeffries is the Democrat in the House, and Leader Schumer in the Senate. They're both from New York, and they're terrified. You've watched their actions carefully. Many of you have not reported on it enough. Poor Hakeem Jeffries had to finally, he was forced to endorse Mondani. And he's terrified that he now owns the results of that. Chuck Schumer's been dancing around the issue, but he knows he's darned if he does, darned if he doesn't. They're both terrified, and so that is the fear. This is a fact, and you should print it this way. The Schumer and Jeffries and their colleagues fear political retribution from the far left activists in their party more.
Guys.
Okay, so this is the book of Revelation, chapter 13 that we're currently in. That only the men of Great Millstone, beginning with the elder apostles on down, who correctly break down the Revelation 13, because we know that the mark of the beast is dealing with the is part of the New World Order, which will be the micro C-hip that's going to come upon the whole world. But we're going to start with Revelation 13:11. It reads, "And I beheld another beast coming out of the earth, and had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon." And these two horns, and that beast is talking about America. And those two horns is the two political systems that America has, which is the Democrat and the Republican House. And it is the same reincarnation of how the ancient Roman Empire ran. So this is what this video is showing you, that they are the same. They're on the same beast, and there's two horns. They both are like a lamb, but they speak as a dragon. Meaning, like when they do their politics, they saying, "Oh, we're gonna pass this law. It's gonna help the people, and we're gonna lower the taxes. We're gonna open America up." That's just the dragon speaking. You know, they speak them kind words, but actually they're doing nothing but is bringing down the getting prepared for the New World Order, which is the micro C-hip. In order to bring that in, they're gonna crashing the system. They bring in that digital ID, which will lead to the micro C-hip. And this is why you're seeing the SNAP program cut, and all these the poor people, which is God's chosen people, Yasha Allah, the northern and southern tribes, so-called Negro, Latino, Native American, Indian. This is for, this is dealing with us, but it's going to come upon the whole world. But, if you're part of the elect, you won't take that micro C-hip. It says, "And I beheld another beast coming out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon." So we're going to get that. We're going to go to the Apocrypha. This is First Maccabees chapter 8. We're going to start at verse 1 to get the subject of the matter. It says, "Now Judas Maccabees, had heard of the Romans, that they were mighty and valiant men, and such as would lovingly accepted all that joined themselves unto them, and made a league of amity with all that came unto them, and that they were men of great value. It was told him also of their wars and noble acts which they had done among the Galatians, and how they had conquered them and brought them under tribute." And so that's how Rome became started to get its power. So we're going to go down to the points, which is in 14 and 16. This is how you know that America is the reincarnation of the ancient Roman Empire. It says, verse 14, it says, "Yet for all this, matter of fact, I'm going to start up to verse 12. It says, "But with their friends, such as relied upon them, they kept amity, and that they conquered kingdoms both far and near, insomuch as all that heard of their name were afraid of them." And that's how Rome became a powerful empire. They had allies that they would fight for, and they would take down kingdoms, far and near. Verse 13, it says, "Also that whom they would help to a kingdom, those reign, and whom again they deplace. Finally, they were greatly exalted." And see, that's how they went on conquering and became great. And yet for all this, none of them wore a crown or clothed in purple, because Rome wasn't like the other nations, like Greece, Spain. They all had kings. They wore crowns and they was clothed in purple. But Rome did not. Rome did not have that. They was different, and that goes into Daniel chapter 7. It says, "Yet for all this, none of them wore a crown and was clothed in purple to be magnified thereby. Moreover, how they have made for themselves a senate house, wherein 320 men sat in council daily, consulting always for the people, to the end that they might be well ordered." And that's the Senate House that was made of the plebeians, which is America's the Democrats for the poor, and the patricians, which is Republicans today, for the so-called representing the rich. And that's what Rome had. As you can see, America doesn't have a king, that's not clothed in purple. Even though Nero 47 would love to be the king, he can't, because there's a constitution that he can't call himself king. But they have a Senate House, 320 men sat daily, the same as we have. The patricians and the plebeians was for that was in Rome, and America today is mimicking that same system. The Democrats and the Republicans. That's what we're noticing. That's what we're witnessing. That video of that same two houses can't come together. They're blaming each other for the shutdown of the government for the past 30-something odd days. Verse 16, it says, "And that they committed their government to one man every year, and that man is the president when they vote him in, same as ancient Roman Empire did, who ruled over all their country, and that all were obedient to that one, and that there was neither envy nor emulation among them." Right? Because he's the president, and they're not like the ancient Roman Empire had the Caesar that sat, right? But when you're dealing with the other nations, they had the kings, where once the king died, his son would be the heir to the king, to the throne. He came up next. But in this system that America is in, and same system that ancient Roman Empire, and they was voted in, every 4 years for the president here in the United States. This is Mark chapter 3. I'm going to start at verse 24. This is Yahweh Shah speaking. He says, "And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. And if Satan rise up against himself and be divided, he cannot stand, but have an end." And that's what you're saying today. You're saying that, Satan's house, talking about America, this place is she's the whore that ride the back of the beast, right? That's over all the other nations. This is Esau's kingdom, and you're seeing it divide. And here in America, you're seeing America being divided. Their house that was standing and starting to crumble, because the House can't get along with the Democrats. The Democrats can't get along with the Republicans. Their political system is falling, and that's what we're just watching on that video. This Democratic system is crumbling in America. Their house is being divided, right? And we know that Esau is the earth was given into the hand of the wicked. His house is being is crumbling, and that's what Yahweh Shah said. This is what Yahweh Shah said when he saw Esau's kingdom falling, on this earth. It says Luke chapter 10 verse 18. He said, "Unto them I beheld Satan as lightning falling from heaven." Yahweh Shah saw that 2,000 something years ago when he was walked on this earth. He saw the downfall of Esau's kingdom crumbling. It was crumbling then when he walked this earth. Now, how much more so now, as we can see that America is falling. They can't get along. They can't come up with anything that can make the nation great again. Why? Because the Lord is putting that spirit. This Lord spirit is here, where He's causing them to fall and issuing in that new world order, which we know it to be the micro C hip. This is Sirach chapter 3, verse 9. It says, for the blessing of the father establishes the house of children. And who is the father's children? Yahweh's children is the house of Israel, Jacob, the northern tribe and the southern tribe, right? And he established us forever, starting with the elect. And that's who has next. Jacob has next. He said, but the curse, who is the curse? That's Esau, Edom. Jacob was given the blessing. Esau was given the curse. He's the man of perdition. He's going to be destroyed. His foundation is going to be destroyed. You know, when Yahweh Shah returns, and with those nuclear weapons coming from the ICBM missiles, his whole rulership on this earth is going. His foundation is going to be rooted out. It says, but the curse of the mother rooted out foundations. And you see that foundation is crumbling, but the Lord is establishing his house forever through the tabernacle of David, which is the chosen elect of the Heavenly Father Yahweh. This is Micah 2:10. It says, arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest. This is not our rest. We was brought here in America for a curse, because we was for punishment. You know, this is our place of punishment, man. This is our place of captivity. This is not our place of rest. It's because it is polluted, it shall destroy you. Yeah, if you stay in the system, if you take that mark of the beast, which this devil is trying to issue, that's going to issue out, which is the I said before, micro C hit, then you're going to be destroyed, even with the sword destruction. And this is what, you know, we're going into, you know, the Jacob's trouble. We're leading into them days where leading up to the micro C hit, and that we should not take, you know, because it's going to come upon all, small and great, rich or poor, free and bond. And if you're part of the elect, you will not take it. So with that, I hope you was edified. Call halal Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah Ba'ashem Makar HaKadash. Again, double honors to the elder apostles of Great Millstone who rule well. Shalom.